Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday Mango Publishing Heart Wisdom panel. I'm Sherry Richert Belul, author of Say It Now, 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the most important people in your life. And oh boy, I've been looking forward to this for all week long. Today we have Jenny. Hey, Jenny. And G. Brian here to talk about the topic of be you. And so we're going to really look at being ourselves in the world, being authentic. And before I have each of them introduce themselves, I pulled a quote from each of their books that just really spoke to me about this topic. And from Jenny's book, I love this. She says, "Most days are pretty prancy. I became that unicorn by not trying to be any girl other than me." Jenny's book is Be That Unicorn. And I just love that she says most days are pretty prancy. And G. Brian says, "I've always said, love yourself and everything else will fall into place. To just be you is to trust that your desires, ideas, and thoughts are enough and that you have nothing to prove or explain to anyone because of them." And then I thought I'd also share a quote we probably all know, but it's just so perfect, which is Oscar Wilde's, "Be yourself, everyone else is taken." So I just thought it'd be fun to start off with a few quotes today. And Jenny, why don't we have you, if you have your book to hold up and show us, and tell us why you do what you do. How are you that unicorn?
Sure. I'm Jenny Block. I'm the author of Be That Unicorn. I am I used to be a travel and food writer before COVID, and now I've become a weddings writer for the New York Times, which has been just magical because all of my days are filled with love stories, which I love. I guess I came here because I finally listened to my dad, who's been trying to tell me since I was little to just he actually quoted Oscar Wilde, "Just be me because everyone else is taken." Best life advice I ever got. Took me a long time to hear that, and even longer to listen. But I believe that is actually how I got here, to me and to that unicorn and to being a writer and maybe even to landing on, finding myself in the world of weddings, because it feels like a very me place, which I wouldn't have told you was a place I would have thought I would have landed. But yeah, just sort of not trying to be anybody else because it was too hard and wasn't working anyway.
Well, and you are a very wonderful you. So thank goodness that you landed there.
Thank you for having me today. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's so great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Hey,
Can I just interrupt and just show a magnet that's on my fridge?
Of course.
Can you see that? I don't know if you can.
No, can you hold it up?
Let's see.
Yes, there we go.
Oh, that's great.
Yay, Krishna. I wish we had a prize to give you.
That's awesome.
No, just being here is a prize. That's enough. But that's been on my fridge for many years, and so.
That's awesome.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's perfect.
All right, now you can carry on. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, no. We're informal around here. G. Brian, hey, from the road. Hello.
Yeah, I showered for you guys today. I went to Planet Fitness. Yep, got a workout in and got cleaned up.
Well, maybe as part of your introduction, you could tell people what in the heck you mean by that. So
okay. Well, I'm driving around the U.S. in a used RV I picked up a few months before I left, and I think today is maybe day 73, and it's going really fast. But today I'm in Bardstown, Kentucky, which is just a little bit south of Louisville, and I'm in an RV park today. Sometimes I use this app called Harvest Host. It's been awesome, and it consists of a whole bunch of wineries and museums and different places that allow members to stay in their parking lot. And so it's been a great way to meet people and learn about a lot of stuff. But tonight last night I was in an RV, so I could plug in and get a little AC. The battery operated fan doesn't always cut it.
I know you have your book there because you showed it to me earlier.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you want to tell us about your book, your work, whatever you want to tell us about you?
Gosh, I mean, it's so evolving, but I left my family business 12 years ago, really into the unknown, and I accidentally kind of wrote my first book, which opened up this door and helped me as I continued to step out of my comfort zone, show me a lot of gifts that were inside of me that I didn't know were there, including more books, and I, was in LA acting, and a lot of other stuff that I really did not know that was inside of me. And so I moved away from LA last September, just a winter in Oregon. I went through prostate cancer last year, and I'm fine now. But I just kind of felt like I needed, how do I explain? I needed to get off the hamster wheel just a little bit and really get to know myself even a little bit better, and maybe clear out some of the stories that I've been telling myself about who I thought I was, or what I thought I needed to be doing. And so that's what this trip's about. And I'm working on another book, and that's been kind of neat. And it's become more clear to me probably in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm just going around really enjoying connecting with people from all over the United States, and I thought initially it would be really cool to see all these places that I'd always wanted to see. And it's been nice, but the things I'm really looking forward to are connecting people, just strangers in the store for 5 minutes, or, just you name it. So it continually unfolds, and but I kind of just feel like I'm shedding the entire way.
Wow. Yeah, which is, of course, you can see why we have these two wonderful authors talking about this topic. And you didn't say out loud the name of your book, but it's Habits for Success.
Thank you. Habits for Success. Yes, thank you.
I did want to say, because I was rereading your book, of course, before the panel, but it's like Habits for Success, to me, in the way that you look at it, is really about like success at living our lives, success at living our lives, at being who we are. It's not just like, that sort of outward success that people might think.
No, I mean, my version of success is continually being tweaked. And initially, I thought it'd be, to have a #1 book on Amazon for a little bit, or to finish an Ironman triathlon, or get a part in a certain TV show or whatever. And I guess there are kind of parts of success, but it doesn't bring one happiness unless, it's coming from within. And it's so cliche, but it's so true.
It is so true. Thank you. And I'm going to have Brian and Jenny are both going to read from their books, but because we have Brenda here, Brenda, I love.
Hey, Brenda.
Brenda is the associate publisher at Mango, and I love when she's here to get to ask her, how did you choose these books, and how did you find these wonderful people?
Well, I was just sitting here thinking, like, what a cool couple of unicorns we rounded up today. Although maybe G. Brian Benson is more of like a Mustang that's like gone from the West, like going all over America. But Jenny was always like the sparkly, glittery kind of unicorn. And like, I love glitter. She and I got to work together like at a previous publishing house, and I just loved her energy, and I recognized that she could do anything and write about anything. And so I love that she's like writing about like fully embracing yourself and just really going for it, just really, really going for it. And I think she has many more books in her. And every time I see her in the New York Times, I get the Sunday New York Times, that's my little treat. And like my heart swells because I know Jenny knows a lot about love, and also being courageous about love, and love is love is love. And so I'm just gonna like stay in the trail of Jenny Block, and just like keep seeing what happens with all the swirling glitter and beauty that she is. And actually, G. Brian Benson came to me from an author who became an agent. And I liked his energy too. And I like that he gives like really practical ideas, and then also just really inspired ideas. And similarly, I'm just going to hang on and see where he takes us. I'm just going to hang on for dear life. I will learn. I will just learn something and be inspired. So that's that's how we got this corral of beauty and brilliance.
Thank you, Brenda. And I love your willingness to keep this metaphor going.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. And it's always such a treat, you know. I mean, to me, it's such a treat to get to meet authors after reading their books, or hopefully, you know, Victoria's been putting the links in the chat, hopefully before reading their books as well. But also then to get to hear from the publisher and get to hear how this all happens, to me, such a gift. So let's go back talking about books. And I know that each of you brought a little something to read. Jenny, do you want to start us off with what you brought?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I actually picked something right from the preface because why I wrote this book is kind of what we're talking about now, like finally deciding to just be me. And I just have to say, I am really grateful to Brenda because I got told a number of times that unicorns are so over and no one really got it, which now I giggle because unicorns are everywhere and they're not going anywhere and they missed the point. And Brenda just never did. She just got it right away. Maybe because we've been working together for so long, or maybe because she's that unicorn too, but which she is, sparkles and all. So I thought that might be a good place to start. And I think I have it timed right, but feel free to wave at me and say, whoa, at any point. I've always wanted to be that it girl, the one people were drawn to, the one who could garner the attention of everyone at a dinner party, the one who was so captivating that no matter where she was or who she was talking to, everyone around her just glowed. The it girl has some sort of magic force about her, and just being around her allowed you to become enveloped in it. I used to think you became an it girl through clothes or beauty or money. Maybe it was her travel or her experiences or her access to the world. The messaging from the world is certainly confusing. Be rich, be young, be beautiful, then everyone will love you and you'll have the world at your feet. But some of the most banal people I have ever met get top marks in all three of those categories. So it set me out on a journey pondering, if that wasn't what made the girl or the guy, what was it? It wasn't until I truly listened to the words of my father had been saying to me since I was a little girl that I realized what the magic quotient of the it girl truly was: authenticity. She feels so comfortable in her skin that she can't help but let it spring out from her like so many sparkly strands that surround and delight everyone around her. Because she feels good about herself, she makes others feel the same way. There's no one easier to adore than someone who reflects back to you the image of yourself that you long to see. The smart, funny, clever, enchanting, kind, calm, inviting version of yourself that knows just what to do and how to do it in every situation. That girl or guy is that unicorn. I used to get angry when my dad would tell me to be myself. That plan had gotten me rejected in the most grandiose of ways, including when I went to Camp Louise the summer between 8th and 9th grades. Everyone else had grown up and arrived at camp with luggage packed with Bloomie's underwear and magazine pages to hang in their lockers of the latest hunky movie stars. I showed up with my monkey puppet. Hi, I'm Jenny, and this is my monkey Henry. It was social suicide at first sight. But what I didn't know back then was that those girls were even more insecure than I was. It was that very desperation that pushed them to follow the crowd in every sense, to dress the same and talk the same and drool over the very same heartthrobs. I was too naive to know any better. I was just being, well, me. That summer was the beginning of me deciding that the whole be yourself thing was for the birds. All it got you was a seat at the dork table in the cafeteria. and a lot of lonely Saturday nights. But years of following the crowd did me no good either. Not in the long run, anyway. Why? Because I wasn't being me. I was faking it, and not in the fake it till you make it kind of way. Just in the plain old fake it because you don't know what the hell else to do kind of way. That's never good. When I was faking it, I felt fake. When I was my actual self, I felt so much better. Slowly, it became clear to me. Being yourself might not always be the easiest, but it is always the best.
Nice.
Oh, oh, Jenny. Not only is that just such, it's just such great writing, but it's like your humor and the way that you bring yourself into the reading of it. I think you just modeled a lot for us.
Thank you. I just can't tell you how many years I spent telling my dad to bug off, that he was just wrong and crazy and dumb, and he would just sort of shrug. You'll come around when you come around, kiddo, and now he just sort of, he's not a told you so guy, now he just says, hey, you come to it when you come to it, and here you are. And when are you going to write my memoirs? That's what he always says to me.
You got to tell your dad that we all said thank you, please.
Okay, I will. He hasn't written a book, but he's written many sermons. You should have him on here one time. He's a hoot man. He just did his first podcast, the Great Big Wedding Podcast. Yeah, because he does, he's the rabbi on the go. He does weddings all over the world that other folks won't do. So yeah, he's a hoot. Yeah, it was as great as it was to have him as a dad. It was very hard as a kid, because of course he was right, and that's annoying. And that, not that it's not annoying as an adult, but as an adult, you can kind of be like, okay, you're right, because you're the rabbi and you're you. And but everyone used to tell me how lucky I was. You're so lucky. I wish I had him as my dad. And I thought, no, you don't. He's always right. He's always telling me to do the right thing and be yourself and trust the process, and all the stuff that you just want. You just want to drive a fancy car and wear the same clothes as everybody else. And yeah, I don't know. It's everyone always asks what are the 3 words you would tell yourself, if you could go back. It's 4, but listen to your dad.
Oh.
Yeah. It's funny, being yourself should be the easiest thing, right? I mean, this is all I got, come in this package. But I feel like most of life is crafted to make us not feel comfortable that way, because you're supposed to be a consumer, and a consumer needs stuff to be better. So I do wonder what would happen if there was nothing to sell. Like, if no one had any reason to, like if I'm pretty enough, if I'm smart enough, if I'm kind enough, even the books we write, like, we're wanted because we can make you better you. I mean, I'd like to think that, Brian and I wrote books that actually will get people closer to that. But yeah, the whole world is, the universe is for us, but corporate America is against us. I mean, they want us to buy stuff. And I still like buying stuff. I just don't need to buy stuff to make myself any more me or any different. I just buy it because it's sparkly.
Right. Oh my God. That was a great, that's just so great. I love that. Right. Like, and maybe that's the thing, that to take away from this point, which is that, yeah, we do buy things, but to buy them because they're sparkly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
make us feel good. Make us happy.
Yes, and as long as the happy part is just that it
authentically happy,
just makes you happy, then great. If you think it's going to do something to make you happy, then I've had some cosmetic surgery done. I had my nose done when I was in college. I used to be very, very sensitive about it. And they asked me, what do you think this is going to do? And I said, well, I hope it's going to make my nose smaller. And he said, right answer. Because he said, if somebody comes in here and says, well, I'm going to get a job and get the girl and get the blah, 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 and everyone's going to love me, then he suggests you see a therapist first. Wow. Because your nose is just your nose. Yeah, it's, we rely on things, and then we're disappointed when they don't do the thing, but they're just things. So, putting on pink makes me feel cheery. That makes sense, you know, so that's a good, yeah, things are kind of upside down. So I just try to be the right side up part.
Oh, Jenny, thank you. Thank you for what you read and everything that you just shared. And hey, Brian, if you want to respond to any of that before you read, or if you just want to launch into what you brought us to read.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
No, I mean, I loved everything that she had to say, and it's so true. I mean, you know, I just look back at myself trying to fit in for, you know, one reason or another, or because I got wounded, and you know, then I felt like I needed to really try to fit in, and you do all kinds of stuff. You waste a lot of money on things, whether they're clothes, whether they're, you know, just, I mean, for me, my own expectations, I'm speaking more recently, were the things that really kind of kept me from enjoying my journey. Cause like I felt like I was supposed to do things at a certain way or place or level. And when they did, you know, well, in a lot of ways, I mean, but maybe not in that one way that I was kind of hoping it would, then it just like, it killed all the joy for everything. And it's just like, you know, I don't want to be in that place anymore. I just want to create and share, and trust that whoever's supposed to see something or be touched by it will be. And it would be nice to, you know, make it a sustainable type of operation. But you know, yeah, it's just I don't know. I'm babbling now, but no, I loved everything she had to say.
Hey, you're not babbling. That was really great. It was really important what you were saying. Yeah, thank you.
I just have to say, I so admire what you're doing, just taking off. I mean, talk about being your authentic and listening to your inside and your gut. And I'm sure plenty of people you know and don't know were like, that's crazy. Grown-up people don't go in trailers and park in parking lots. And also, many of us who were these weirdos when we were younger, now are the people who are doing the things that make us happy. I feel sad sometimes when I see people on Facebook who, you know, they were so popular in high school and they did all the things, and now they're, you know, they're just super unhappy because they followed all this stuff, but none of it was them. And that makes me sad for them. That makes me sad.
No, I hear you. And I mean, I'm glad, I'm proud of myself for, you know, stepping out of my comfort zone in a lot of different ways and following my intuition for as long as I can remember, whether it was getting into triathlons after a knee injury, and that changed my life, and gave me a lot of confidence, and in some ways acted as a little bit of a band-aid for me because of some of the wounding earlier, but it was still all positive, you know, and I had that in my back pocket when I left the family business and started doing some of these other things that were terrifying for me at first, but yet I kept landing, and one thing led to another, and I kept gaining a little more traction and momentum and confidence, and it kept continually made me feel more and more alive. And so this trip, it doesn't really make sense on paper, but I knew I needed to do it because it's already done a lot for me. My heart has opened up so much, and not that I was necessarily an egotistical, we all have ego, but I mean a really egotistical person to begin with, but yet in some ways I'm a little bit myopic, you know, it's just me. And so I kind of just been focusing on trying to make some of these things happen. And when I was 3, I told my mom I was put here to inspire people. And so in the back of my mind, that's kind of messed with me. And so I'm just out here just to kind of cleanse the palate, and just see what comes. And I've really, it's really been nice. I mean, at first it's the process. Like, I wasn't quite sure what the trip was about. I was doing it, you know, I was, you know, surviving. I wasn't, you know, what have you. But then it just, as I got into a groove, and then I just it just kept opening it more and more, and it still is. And it's only been day 73, but I'm excited about what's next.
It's really interesting to hear you say, I did it anyway, even though it didn't make sense. And the first thing that popped into my mind was, you know, what doesn't make sense is people living 60 minutes from their job in a house they pay too much for, that they have to drive 60 minutes to work so hard to pay for the house, that they don't like the job, that they have to get to the house. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting how we define like what doesn't make sense. Like, you're being weird, you're off the grid, you're doing crazy. And yet it's not crazy to be house poor, or sit in a cube for 30 years of your life doing something that you can't stand, or any of the other things that we make that aren't authentic choices. So anytime I see someone who makes a decision that says like, this told me to do it, and for once I just effing listened, I just think,
Yep.
oh, you know.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
And
super
it's
cool.
no regrets at all. No regrets at all. I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing. And like I said, I'm already feel like I'm a 100% better person for it. And my heart open. I just want to connect with people. And, you know, it's been nice. Yeah, it's been really nice.
Awesome.
Ryan,
Thank
I've been really curious about what you would choose from.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Because you're in such a unique situation, and I was thinking, what's he going to read to us?
Well, I hope I'm kind of feeling like I might have read this in the past. I hope not, but it's my poem, Your Voice. And since it's Be You, I felt like it's so important just to kind of hammer home that point that our voices are important. Oh, pardon me?
I said, bring it
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. Your voice creates a ripple over land and well beyond. Truthful words vibrate lifted to create a loving bond. Your voice can be your freedom, or your voice can be your hell. Mindful heed and word and thought send forth love and light to gel. Your voice can give permission to another seeking truth. Authentic centered living taps into eternal youth. Your voice can be the difference to set a young child free. Loving words to encourage, a model for them to be. Your voice is your ready key to unlock your truthful worth. Spoken pure, life now renewed, energized, loving rebirth. Your voice gives inspiration for those afraid to speak. Reassuring tone shared true helps others gain their peak. Your voice is a kindred link when spoken face to face. True connection, eyes unite before texting took its place. Your voice is your true freedom when it's spoken from the heart. Intuition's guiding path helps you play your destined part. And your voice is fundamental for all life and love to flow. Empowered, valued, perfect, painting a worldly glow.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you chose to bring that. It's so perfect.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny. I'm just a conduit, and I'm sure Jenny would attest to that too, probably. But like a whole bunch of poems came through me like in 2011, 2012. And I go, oh my God, these are going to help people. And then, you know, what an idiot. Looking back, I mean, they were all for me first and foremost. And you know, I mean, come on, Brian.
I liked everything you just said except the what an idiot part.
Oh, I know. Okay. You know what I mean.
That out of
I'm not an idiot. I love myself, but
I know, and I know you're not, because it's both, right? I mean, yes, they probably did serve you quite well, and you know, I've been lucky enough to hear some of your different poems or to read them, and they help all of us, you know. So it's both.
just little reminders. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have had to tell myself to go read my book. Jenny,
Right?
you go back to your study and read your book, young lady. Yeah, it's so easy. It's so much easier to listen to other people. It's so much easier to tell other people what to do.
Right?
Yeah, you can be your authentic self. I'll be over here hibernating.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow the status quo because that's much safer. But you should live on the edge.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you guys, I love this, and I want to make sure that I get to. I had told both of you, I gave you a little bit of a warning that I was going to ask you something. And I'm going to, those of you who are also here, maybe think for yourselves when I ask this question to them, which is, the question is, and Jenny, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Do you have a time that drops in or that pops up into your mind when you really felt like you know, like I was going to say the most like you, but there've probably been many of those times, but just, and how did you get there?
You know, I two things came into my mind, and both of them struck me as interesting to me, for me to say them in sort of a meta way. One of them was when I perform. And that used to be as an actress a long time ago. And now I sort of consider, I always say there's this Jenny Block and then there's Jenny Block, you know, like on stage or whatever. So it seems almost counterintuitive to say that the performing part of me is me. But the thing about that is I'm allowed to be me when I'm performing, because no one's going to make fun of me because I've been hired or paid or cast or asked to do that thing. So when I'm funny and silly and crazy and interesting and charming and wonderful, that's just what you signed up for. I don't have to be embarrassed about that. I don't have to think about that. So ironically, I'm most authentically me when I give myself permission, often because someone else has given me permission, but I have permission to do that. Because I'm a lot, which I say to myself as a compliment now, not as a put down, but because I am a lot, sometimes I remind myself that I can be too much for a certain situation or a certain person. But in that case, the more I am, the better, because they're in those seats, they came from the pool, they bought the ticket, they whatever, because they wanted a lot. So yeah, it's funny to me. And I also find it, you know, in some ways depleting, and, you know, it's a lot to be a lot on a big stage to a lot of people. But it's also the real me, because I leave it all out on the floor, as it were. The other thing, and I couldn't decide if this only applied to, no, it doesn't only apply. I am most myself when I am with my best friend from high school. And I just saw him again recently. And I realized that I don't censor myself. I don't really think before I talk or do, or I am a lifetime disordered eater. And when I'm with him, I eat food without thinking. I don't have any of that junk. So there's something about before the world told you you weren't good enough, before the world started. And ironically, I met him in high school, and high school was very difficult for me. I went to a private parochial high school, and I went for free because my dad taught there. And it was all the rich kids in their Porsches and their clothes and that girl I was not. My parents I always joke, my parents told me it was important to be smart and nice and funny, but apparently that wasn't true. It was important to be beautiful and rich. So that got very confusing for a minute. But still, just the same, being with him meant, you know, driving to Ocean City in his cabriolet, listening to a bootleg of Tracy Chapman and singing at the top of our lungs. Like that to me is the authentic me. Like that's what I call back to when I'm like, hey, let's just be ourselves. So yeah, for me, it's twofold. Part of it's about being with another human who just always loved me for, you know, who I was and what I was. And interestingly, whole nother side story, but interestingly, he was going through an immense trauma at the time that I had no idea of. And he was still this incredible light, which I find so interesting. And we didn't see or speak to each other for 10 or more years because of that. Not because I knew, but because he was going through that still. And now we're like inseparable again. And then the performing thing, maybe that's because ultimately that's my center. Like that's where I'm from. That's my core. My core is like, you know, what's that line from Chorus Line? Give me a chance to come through. All I need is the music and the mirror. Like I don't sing. Okay, I do, but not well. Yeah, I love it. I love it because it feels like permission to be me, and me is pretty, you know, full on. I'm quite entertaining, but I'm also, you know, I am aware that I come with a lot of emotion and a lot of meta. Like I'm always thinking about what the thing means, if the thing was, or if the thing wasn't. I don't have an off. So authentic me is when I feel like I have permission to not be off.
Wow. Jenny, thank you. Thanks for giving that I mean, I could tell you really gave it some thought, and I appreciate that. You know,
sure.
Really.
That was a great question. I love a prompt. Could you give me a prompt for a new book, and I'll just Get right to it.
You betcha. You betcha. All right, Brian, you're up.
Okay, gosh. Well, I resonate a little bit with what she had to say. I'm outgoing, but I'm an introvert, and so I'm not out there like Jenny is. I try to be a little bit, at times, and it's not always easy. But I think when I'm chatting with friends that know me, that I'm, just when I can just kind of drop into who I am and throw the occasional F-bomb or whatever, and just that. I put a lot of pressure on myself after my first book came out about 12 years ago. Because I felt like I needed to be this self-help guru, right? It was so serious, but I really put a lot of pressure on myself on how I was to be in the world. And I lost a lot of the fun part of me. And so it's been coming back the last 2 or 3 years, but I think this trip means many things for me. But one of them is just stepping back into who I am and being who I am and not worrying about any of that other stuff. But yeah, I think also those times when I did step out of my comfort zone and go after intuitive nudges, like when I got into triathlons and I ended up doing 50 of them in a course of like 5 or 6 years, including 4 Ironman, and it just kind of became a lifestyle for me. But that made me feel alive. And when I started trying to overcome my fear of speaking after my first big book came out in 2009, it was scary, but it made me feel alive. And I think anytime I can, like this trip makes me feel alive, anytime that I can be doing something that forces me to be present and out of my head, I feel like that's kind of the real me, and I'm not letting those old stories or ideas of who I think I should be dictate how I act.
Wow. That is so great. I love that. Thank you so much.
Brian, I love your use of the word feeling alive. We keep talking about being authentic or our true selves, but it's synonymous with alive. I feel alive.
Yeah.
It is that you're actually living. I think we have a bad habit as humans of sleepwalking. You sort of, you wake up and you click because everything is too hard or too complicated or too
too easy.
Or too easy. Good point. Good point. No more challenges. But to actually be alive, I felt alive. I used to be the bench sitter. Wherever we went, I would hold the coats. I'd never been on an amusement park ride till I was 40, never climbed anything, nothing. Finally went on a roller coaster only because I didn't want to sit on the mom bench because everybody was real unhappy and real covered with snot over there. And I thought, 2 choices, Jenny Block, mom bench or roller coaster. And after that, I started the year of yes. And I didn't really like all the stuff I did. Like, I don't really like roller coasters, but I'm not scared of roller coasters. I don't like feeding sharks, but I'm not scared of feeding sharks. Like, I would do things. I rappelled off a 21-story hotel building. You know what my father said? Was the elevator broken? I started to do things that made me feel alive, that I had to use this and this and this. I had to make a call. I had to make a move. So I love that you use that expression. I wonder what would happen if we started saying that instead of I'm going to be my authentic self. I'm going to live.
Yeah, I think self-discovery is so important. And unfortunately, like we just mentioned, not enough people are really discovering about themselves. And sometimes it's scary and it's not easy. And you have to just jump with no wings, but you'll land. We always do. And it just, I'm very curious by nature. And so it feeds that part of me, and I got a little complacent. I was doing a lot and I was trying to, with all the different books I've done and all the acting stuff and the shorts I did and the speaking, and it just kind of got overwhelming. In some ways I was enjoying a lot of it because I felt like I was a conduit and I'm proud of everything, but yet I just kind of got on this ride that started to not be as enjoyable.
Yeah, it's interesting. I too, just like Jen, really resonated when you said that about being alive, and I'm open it up in just a minute to hear from other people who are here. But I was thinking just today, I was doing a podcast interview and was telling my story about what I used to call cardboard Sherry, and she looked very much like this, right? But she would just say, the right things. She would say what she thought the other person wanted to hear. And oftentimes the other person didn't even know that they were talking to cardboard Sherry, but I knew because it was
Yeah, right.
it was
Yeah.
dead. Yeah. Yeah. And just quickly, I just wanted to also share one of my all-time favorite stories of guidance I got about being me that really literally changed so much for me, which is that I spent a lot of my years when I was younger. I was like, oh, I love women in hats. Oh, I wish I were a woman who could wear hats. I wish I could wear hats. Oh, those women, right? Like, so there was just this if only. And luckily I had this boyfriend from Jersey, Loretta. He was that like tough Jersey boy. And he was like, got a freaking head. And he said, you're going to feel dumb. You'll probably feel dumb for a while, maybe a few weeks. And then you'll be a girl who wears a hat. Like he was just, and, it changed everything. It's like, I knew there was something in me. And actually, this could be a whole different panel, like all the places hat wearing has taken me, but I knew there was something in me that wanted that expression. And so I guess one of my favorite pieces of guidance from Bill from Jersey was like, if there's something calling to you that, it's alive in you, it really is. There's something that's like, ooh, to do it, even if it feels uncomfortable, because
I want to get you a t-shirt or a button to give out that just says wear the hat.
There you go.
I mean, such a
That's
great,
awesome.
What a great metaphor, because that really is, that was the same thing I had. Like, just be that unicorn. If you want to be that girl, if you want to be that, then okay, like nobody's, but all that stuff in your head, they're like, well, people will think I'm dumb and I don't look good in hats. And who do I think I am wearing a hat? And like, shut up, like, if I had a nickel for everybody up here who keeps telling me bad stuff, I'd be a very rich girl. Wait, speaking of which, in honor of you, Sherry.
Goodness. Okay, now while she's gone, I'm going to open it up. So be thinking, because I would really love to hear people's, moments. Oh, Jenny, get closer. You
or
are
farther, or I need to be farther. There we go. The real me wants to wear this all the time.
Baby, I'm so glad you went and got that. Awesome. All right, so I'm posing the question to anyone who's here. Do you have a moment when you, oh, Rachel, I know you're so great about always jumping in. Tell us.
First, I just want to, the whole thing on the nudges, and that's so true. I mean, I've heard all of you talk about these nudges, and I've had them throughout my life. And what opened me up to that authentic self was coming up with my blog name. Is, you're thinking of this, okay, what is it that I want to represent me? Because this is something that, this is your brand, this is you, And so I really wanted to be true to that. So when I came up with From a Loving Place, that was because of, after being in college and studying Martin Luther King and Buddha and Gandhi and all these people who lived life from a loving place, it was it was that core of love. And I felt like I kept getting nudges all along the way to do that. Wow. When I was a teenager, I was a teenager who felt outward. If I felt anything, you felt it in every way, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. You would feel it, because I did not hide anything. I did not suppress anything. It was out there. And but then I crashed and went into the depression. And then, of course, their answer was to numb me by putting me on medication. And so then I went from feeling everything to not feeling anything. And my cousin died while I was on medication and I couldn't cry. So I got off medication and realized that part of my journey was to feel completely. And so I got to that confusing point where, Jenny, you were talking about where like things weren't matching. And so it's like people are telling me to be positive, but then that wasn't matching me feeling everything. So I had to figure out what that meant for me. And for me, living from a loving place means I live in the energy of love, but that doesn't mean I don't feel fear. I don't feel anger. I don't feel rage. I can feel every feeling, but then I wrap it in love. I don't beat myself up with it. And that made a huge difference to me. And writing is where I've always felt authentically me, because I started writing letters when I was 8 years old to my best friend who moved away. So in those letters, I could share me. I could share me authentically, and then I get over. And so I've done that my whole life. Obviously, then wrote the book, Letters from a Better Me. So, but that's always been my journey. And it's just like it. But it's those nudges. It's everybody has them for their own authentic journey, and it's just figuring out what yours is. So I love this topic. So thank you.
And can I add one thing?
Yeah.
That was awesome. You're right. And step into them. And a lot of times they might not necessarily make sense, but they might point to something else that's completely different than the original nudge.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's what I found for myself.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Rachel. And thanks for adding that, Brian. That's so true. So important, Who else?
It was really interesting too that you mentioned that doesn't mean that you don't feel sad or mad or whatever. I had someone come at me really hard about, aren't you ever mad? What's all this sparkly stuff? And I said, well, finish reading the book, because that is exactly the point, Rachel, that you can feel all those things, and then you can, and I use joy, love, any of those words are awesome. For me, like I wrap it around in joy and just say, this completely sucks. So now what? Like things that otherwise would have just made me completely decompensate, what instead is fun or interesting or silly or even so terrible it's going to be the best best story at a dinner party ever. Like where can we come back and not instantly cry, stomp, do all the stuff. And my dad always says that, let it do that. Process. Let me know when you're done, and then we'll get to the good stuff. But let yourself do all that, and then it's whether you choose to prance or plop after the thing happens. That's where the goodness is.
Brenda.
Yes. I have a bit of a unicorn moment that happened when I first moved from West Virginia to San Francisco in the mid 80s, and I literally I wore a blue gingham dress on my first day in San Francisco, total hayseed, and I was so excited to be there. And I felt very alive, actually, I remember. But so the cool, the cool kids that I was staying with, I was staying with a good friend's brother who had a punk band. I, arrived in a blue gingham dress. Obviously I wasn't cool enough, but and so they were so sort of arch and hipsters, and they wanted to make fun of me for being from West Virginia and my accent. I remember one of them looked down and said, "Oh, you wear shoes. I didn't think you wore shoes in West Virginia." And I just laughed along with them because I was just oh geez, but then I realized how expensive it was going to be to live in San Francisco. So I got a job on my first day.
Yeah.
And I got a job at Morgan Stanley brokerage as a brokerage assistant, because I took a test and at the personnel office and I passed or something, and they were actually a great job. So I had to be at work to be in time at 4 a.m. to be in sync with the New York Stock Exchange. And I just answered the phone and typed and filed and whatever. And these New Yorkers were calling all the time. And I got to know them, and they really liked my accent. And they liked that I was if I said I was going to do something, I turned it right around and got stuff done and everything. And so I sort of became friends with a couple of these really rough, tough New York stockbroker guys. And like they were like, you know, like you're really, you know, you're good. You're going places, Brenda. And then one of them like said, like, the fact that you're from West Virginia makes you different from all of those people in that building. It makes you different from everyone else. And I realized in that moment, I was like, oh man, the thing I was embarrassed about is my superpower.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And like I have worked the West Virginia thing every day since.
Hot damn.
That's amazing.
Oh, that is so great. Oh, Linda.
Sorry, I had to step out for a minute there. Mine's kind of the reverse of that where I grew up in New Jersey. I'm sorry I missed the New Jersey conversation earlier, but part of what kept me from being my authentic self, I think some of the time, was my own ideas of who I was. I grew up in South Jersey. I had an attitude as big as some people's hair in South Jersey, right? So when I realized that I was then a poet much later in life, and I pursued this path of peace and all of this, it didn't seem to fit together. And I had this idea in my head of who I was, and yet I had evolved into somebody else, but that didn't feel authentic to me because I had this idea in my head of who I was. So I had to come to terms with my own idea of who my authentic self was. And it wasn't until a friend of mine, many years after I had, pursued poetry, said to me, you never use your Jersey voice in your poetry. And I was like, oh, I could be both things? Wait a minute. And I proceeded to write a poem called Jersey Girl that I love, that I read in front of ministers in a church one time. That was kind of embarrassing, but fun. And so, yeah, I was my own greatest obstacle at some point to being my authentic self, just because of these old ideas I had about who I was.
Linda, thank you. Oh, you guys, I wish we had an extra hour or two. Karen, come on, jump in.
I actually have a name for mine, my authentic self, or I guess it's I don't know, I call it elemental aliveness. And I have this sort of like this whole like process around it, but I want to share one of the times when I feel most myself is, and this has happened many times over the years that I've been married. I will hide somewhere in the house when my husband's not home. Like he's retired now, but he'd be at work regularly and I'm working at home. And I would hide somewhere in the house randomly, and he would come home. And the first time it happened, it was even funnier, but like it became sort of this game, and I would like hide somewhere and he'd come home and he would like realize that I'm hiding somewhere, and then he'd have to come find me, and I'd be like wherever I'm hiding, like holding in the laughter and like trying not to give myself away. And I could hear him like opening doors and checking places and closets and whatnot. And every single time it's like, I scare him or I give myself away, but like it's like the best. And when I think of, people will sometimes ask the question like, what age were you most yourself? Or when you like, no matter how old you are, how old are you when you like are your most, and a lot of people are like, oh, 25 or whatever. I'm like 10 is like my authentic age. And like when I'm truly being myself and being that I'm 10.
And again, it's before the world told you
Exactly.
had to do anything else. And I love that you're back in hide and seek, because that fills you with so much joy.
Well, and it's like once you hit menopause and you're on the other side, it's like you're on the other side of that time when people are telling you who you can be, right? Like, so when you're 10, for some of us, some of us maybe hit it at that age, but like, yeah, and then you're on the other side and you get to like, it's like the opposite of puberty.
Right. That's wonderful.
Oh, and I feel like we got to see her. What a gift. Like, when you just started giggling, like what a gift that you brought her to us. Love that. Okay, listen, I know it's 2:29 and we're supposed to hop off, but I just want to make sure if there's anyone else that I can stay, I know other people might have to hop off, but I just want to make sure anyone who has a story that wanted to tell it has the chance. Anybody else have a? No. Going once, going twice. Okay, then I want you to stay for just a couple, it's probably about a minute. I pulled something from Jenny's book and she gave me the permission to read it to end our panel. And it's something that the first time I read it, I just really loved. I've got her on audio saying it. I can't hear it enough. And I wanted to share it with all of you. And then we'll close out our circle. So this is from Be That Unicorn. All day long and from every angle, we hear what we should be doing, how we should be doing it, and what we should look like while we're at it. Most of what is thrown at us is preposterously unattainable. Life is a much shorter trip. Mine says to think of it as an amusement park to which you can only ever get one ticket. Once it's closed, it's closed. You have one chance to ride the rides and see the shows and taste the cotton candy and connect with the other people there. You can waste your time being afraid you'll look silly on the ride, worried you won't laugh at the right parts of the show, stressed you'll throw up from the cotton candy, scared that if you wait in line for this ride, then the line for the other one might get too long. You can live in fear and you can miss it all, or you can go for it. You can trust that you know best what you can do, what you want to do, and what you can handle, and you go for it. I love that, Jenny, so much.
I love that he said that, and he still says it all the time. Like when I'm trying to, decide about this or that, he'll say, "One ticket, Jenny, one night only."
Yeah. Huge thanks to Brian and Jenny, everything you guys really brought all of yourselves here. We can feel it. And thank you to everyone who's here. I loved hearing your stories today. I love seeing your faces. Thank you, Victoria, for everything you do for us to get these panels up and running. Brenda, thank you, thank you, thank you. Without you, we wouldn't be here. And thank you to all of you who came here. We are here every Wednesday. It's always awesome. Please come back and see us again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Go be you.